You're watching EVH and Gear TV, brought to you by Design39 Media. Visit design39media.com for all your website, photography, and video production needs. Microphones for EVH and Gear TV are provided by Rode Microphones, and official Van Halen merchandise is provided by VanHalenStore.com. And now, here's your host from Ontario, Canada, EVH artist Eric Broadbent.
Hey everyone, happy Friday to you all, and happy Father's Day weekend. Father's Day weekend this weekend, and EVH and Gear TV, we are live. Really happy to be here. Beautiful weather, and I've got a fantastic guest. This has been probably in the works for probably about a year and a bit.
Has it been that long?
It's been close to it, yeah. From 3G Guitars, I have Jon Mulvey. Jon, how are you?
I'm well. How's everybody?
I think everybody's doing great. I think everyone's really excited for the weekend. Obviously, like I mentioned too, as well, Father's Day, hanging with the kids and family, stuff like that. It's a good mood time right now. I love it.
All the dads are getting ready to barbecue.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, it's like kind of an easy meal, right? Even that's something I can't hurt myself with. I shouldn't say that yet. You've probably seen some of my trials and tribulations on Facebook with kitchen injuries. But for the most part, barbecuing, I can handle my own there pretty good.
Well, just remember, fire good, right?
Yes, except as long as it's not in the kitchen.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Just keep it on the grill.
That's
outside.
Right. Because I did do that. I did catch the kitchen on fire. So that's a story. I'm going to open up another show. Maybe that'll be my third show. I'm going to talk about something along the lines of kitchen accidents. We'll see. I know there's already been a kitchen disasters and things like that, but maybe we can talk about dads that shouldn't be in the kitchen.
Yeah, I think everybody's had that moment where all of a sudden it all goes sideways in the kitchen, right?
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Let's do something here a little different than I normally do. I always love to see people in the chat. We have a bunch of people in the chat now, and I usually don't get to them until partway through the show. So I'm going to say hi to them right now, and I'll let you know. You've got the chat open as well, too.
I do. I see Sean. How are you doing, Sean?
That's one of your buddies, Sean Cook?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Yeah, Sean was sharing some stuff today, too, so I appreciate that, Sean. Thank you very much. It's nice to meet you here. Justin Gardy, he got his new 5150 lunchbox today. He got a good deal on eBay, and he's loving it. So it's nice to hear that, and congratulations. Jay's Tacos and Guitars is here. Quentin James is here. It sounds like there's a little project in the works for Quentin. Some people are rounding up something for him. It's kind of a little private joke, but he'll get it. SB Vlogs is here. Sean Cook, we just mentioned Sean. Carlo Santin, my fellow Canadians, here as well. Happy Friday, everyone. He says he's got the steaks lined up and ready to go on Sunday. Fantastic.
Oh, nice.
Sean Close says, love the t-shirt. Where can I buy one? If you're referring to the Van Halen one, that's from VanHalenStore.com. Link is in the description down below. Very, very cool. And always support authentic and official merchandise, and that's the place to go. I see things pop through my feed all the time. It drives me crazy, all this unauthorized merchandise. And, the band doesn't get that money. So I'm not saying that they need it, but it's certainly it's good to go to the authorized source.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Daryl McMillan's here saying hello. Larry Petrie's here saying we smoke briskets, not grilling hamburgers and dogs. We use pellet grills for smoking meat. Nice. Okay.
Nice. Good. Yeah. I went back to the wood, back to mesquite, and for years it was these nice propane grills, and suddenly you realized, well, that's not barbecue. There's nothing barbecue about that,
True. That's 100% right. I remember the days of having I didn't really have anything fancy, but just coal or whatever the different things were, and lighter fluid. I remember pulling a Homer Simpson, squeeze and then squeeze and then squeeze some more, and then you throw in a match and you see a nuclear cloud, right?
Yeah.
But you get the flavor of the coal, and it's a big difference for sure.
Yeah, we went back. My wife had basically a retreat for her teammates at work, and so the grill I had just wouldn't suit for the amount of people. So all of a sudden it was rent a big grill and went with mesquite, and that was it. After that, it was like, forget it, get rid of the propane, get back to the fire, let the voice of your ancestors speak through it. All that stuff.
I know. We have a pretty cool pit in the backyard, like a fire pit. I would like to, just once, like we've done hot dogs and things like that over, sitting around the campfire and marshmallows, but I would love to put a big steel grill across the top of it and just throw some steaks on top of a massive fire.
I see a plan in the future.
I think so.
Yeah.
A couple more people will say hi to him. We'll jump into our program. Got Blimpus here saying happy Friday, Eric and John.
Hey.
Great chat show, Larry Petrie saying thank you. Appreciate that so much. Let me see here. Nocturnal Butterfly, that's my beautiful better half. She's a great asset here in the chat for sure. Thank you so much.
Always there.
Yeah, and we'll just get, I know she's going to hate me for saying this as well, too, but I was just telling John off the air, Poison Ivy's, as some of you know her, Sandra Lee here, she's doing a little bit better day by day, and we're out again today, getting some sunshine, and I think that sun is a good thing for her as well, so very nice.
Absolutely.
Blimpin says, Eric, why the shave? Just changing turning a new leaf a little bit, trying to retain my youth, but it's growing back. I'll have it back by next show. Quentin James says Nocturnal Butterfly should probably stop posting stuff on Face Planet. So I will leave it flagged there. We'll continue on the show after. So I'm glad at least we're here to say hi to everybody. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us tonight.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Before we get into the company and all the really cool stuff that we're here to talk about tonight, and obviously not just the company tonight, we're going to talk about, innovation from Eddie Van Halen through your company and everything, all kinds of things in between. But I think a lot of people, including myself, would like to get some backstory on you as a musician and just kind of a little bit of a biography on you.
Well, I've been playing guitar. I come from sort of a musical family. My mother was a musicologist, so it was pretty easy to go into music lessons early. And I started guitar in LA at 7 and studied classical guitar for a couple of years, and then studied with some local guys in LA that were just amazing session musicians. There was so many great musicians through the 70s down in LA. They were on every corner. Mm-hmm. And it was just one of my teachers, Joe Ollinghouse, had a gig with Ella Fitzgerald at 18, a duo gig. So wow. I used to listen to his recordings with her, and here I was 17, not even close to the ability of what he was doing with Ella in Europe at 18. There was a real renaissance, I think, for all those guys that came up in the 50s in the jazz world. And I was fortunate enough to be around down there when a lot of those old timers were still around. And so I studied a bit of jazz, and then eventually I came up to the Bay Area. Okay. And I studied at San Francisco State University, composition and a bit of performance. And then eventually I ended up 3 years with Joe Satriani. And that's basically, the Joe School is like the ultimate pressure cooker. And it's that was a great way to sort of finish the education side. And I've always done music. I've taught full time. I teach right now at Guitar Center in Gilroy. That's been my thing. I've owned recording studios. I've done tons of sessions. I've worked at some of the iconic studios in the Bay Area. I've worked out of, basically, and also I've been a sideman. I've gone out with artists like Cat McLean, and my wife and I have a few different bands that we've actually toured internationally with. So just both feet have been in music my whole life. So that's pretty much, there's a lot of detail there, but that's it in a nutshell. That's
absolutely fantastic, man. You've seen the world, and you've seen some of the greatest studios. And you've mentioned Joe Satriani. I gotta ask you a question on that for a second. A while back in an interview, Richie Blackmore was kind of gave a sour impression, or I guess opinion, or I guess his opinion on Joe Satriani. Did you hear that? Where you're saying he's too perfect, doesn't play any sour notes, and Joe was as cool as Joe is, and handled it very professionally. He's like, well, I think he was kind of shocked a little bit, because that's one of his heroes, one of all of our heroes in some way or another. And the fact that, what I find about Joe, this is my personal opinion, is he's probably one of the best improv guys on the planet. What were your thoughts when you heard that, saying that he's just too perfect or whatever?
Well, I rarely ever comment on YouTube, unless, of course, as you know, I'm on your show, and it's relevant to what, what I'm doing or what I'm involved with.
Yeah.
But I saw that, and I'm not sure if it's his official YouTube channel, but that was one of the few times where I actually got involved. And my comment, if you go to, I think it's the Richie Blackmore channel,
okay,
you'll see that they pinned my comment up, and I got a lot of agreement basically and flack. The thing that people, he was so far off base as far as Joe is concerned. The thing that people don't realize about Joe is he's probably one of the best blues players that you would ever hear. We haven't really ever had an opportunity to hear him play traditionally. He does his own version of blues, and it's very unique, and it has all the mud and dirt in it. But I would say go back and listen to his Red House with Mick Jagger.
Yeah.
Live at New York. Listen to his blues playing. He's one of the most astounding players. When I finished, back to the point.
Yeah.
I basically was very critical, and I think I got a lot of flack for it. But it was sad because it just came off as bitter. I don't know. Did you read it? Did anybody read it? Did you guys tune into that?
Maybe in the chat they may have. And that's the thing too. And I didn't mean to put you on the spot with that. And here again, this is just opinion. It's not fact or anything like that too. We're both just voicing our opinions. I don't think it was warranted. And I've always said this before about Joe Satriani. He's probably my second favorite guitarist on the planet next to Eddie. He is, hands down. If you ever had to do like a Crossroads, like a Steve Vai, and Ralph Macchio and the Crossroads head-cutting duel, and it was Joe Satriani and a couple of the guitar players, and it had the last part of and we're going to talk rock and roll shredders, I'm going to say, so there's a group of them, and to save your life, to win that thing, it's a blues duel, maybe some Hendrix or whatever. I think Joe Satriani will always come out on top, just because, you think he's so scripted and orchestrated, and when you let him improv, that's where he's smoking Joe.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to open 2 of his shows on the Unstoppable Momentum tour.
Oh, wicked! And
I told my band, I have this great band from down there, these young guys down there, and it was just a wonderful opportunity, and they were so excited, and I just said, watch the game elevate when Joe hits the stage. Watch, feel, or not even watch it, feel it. We were in the front row. And if you get a chance to actually, and I've had this opportunity, I've been very fortunate to have gone out and supported a lot of my heroes like this. I've been able to open a lot of shows, and no matter how hard you try, it's their audience, it's their show. Mm-hmm. And they always appear when they're doing their craft. They always appear as the legends that you expect. I mean, more often than not. Mm-hmm. And he came out and he just took command of the stage, and it was different. You can go to a concert and watch someone and get enveloped in the show, but when you share the stage with someone, the energy basically you bring to it, and then when you get off and then you watch the headliner take command of it, it was pretty much astounding. And it was fun to watch my crew sort of just get washed over from all this intensity. And, the guy, I left my first lesson with him and I was basically going to just hang it up. I got in my car and I said, okay, well, let's see. I can sell my stuff. I'll go back to school. I'll get a business degree like Grandma wanted.
Sure.
All that stuff, because he was so... we were in a little closet in a studio in Berkeley, and just his ability to play exactly what he wanted. There was never, ever a moment, no matter how much he may have been distracted in life, that when he picked up the guitar, it just wasn't completely front and center. It was pretty astounding.
I like the way you mentioned the energy, and I can try to be in your shoes. I'm just going to feel that moment for a second. You're on the stage, the band's doing really, really well. First of all, you're pumped up because you are opening for Joe Satriani, so that's a natural caffeine high or rush for you. So you're thinking it's related to a race car. You're in a nice car on the highway, and you're cruising as fast as you think that car is going to go. Then Joe and his entourage come on. It's like, where did this come from? It's just like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've had that happen a number of different times. But as far as the subject, just sort of wrapping up, mm-hmm. It was sad because the one thing we know about Joe is he's one of the most nicest guys in the business, and he's so completely unaffected after all these years by fame and all that. And for for someone, especially for Richie to point the gun at both Joe and Steve Moores, I mean, come on. It doesn't, I mean, to me, as we all know, the passion that those two players bring to not only the stage, but countless recordings, they've never let us down on their records. They've never let us down on stage. The consistency's there. So
yeah,
it was definitely sad.
Awesome. Well, yeah, it truly was. Over in the chat, we've got Chris Jones jumping in saying, Rock and Roll Friday, folks. Howdy from Texas. And Ron Bain saying hello, Eric and everybody. And Carlo Santin says, wow, having Satriani as a teacher is an experience of a lifetime. And Carlo Santin is a teacher as well, not in music, but at a school. So that's very, very cool. It's all the same when it comes down to it. And that's something I was going to say to you. You probably have found this. Teaching is a wonderful thing, no matter what it is, whether it's art or music or, English language. You tend to, I would imagine, in your case with music, probably learned a lot from your students too.
It's the two-way street is a cliche. I was just thinking about that because sometimes I get anxiety when I have to teach really young kids,
right?
Because I'm passionate about teaching. I've always been, and I started at a young age, so I can really fall into autopilot. And so I get a little bit of anxiety because I'm not sure if I'm going to be over their head, and I have to really sort of hone it in and get my Pokemon stickers out, things like that.
Sure.
And just this week, I had two 7-year-old girl students that, were just so on it, so mature, so ahead of me in the process. And, I just reminded myself after that day of just how lucky I am to share that experience because, you're shaping these young kids and you're also doing something that a video can't do. And that's you're getting to know how they think. We all think differently and we all play differently. And so we can get information and gather information, but it's a pleasure to work with people and to present the information, get to know the person, find out how to do that in a way that is compelling to them and interesting. So yeah.
Oh, that's
I love teaching for sure.
That's awesome. And here's a question I've never asked any instructor before, and this was not on the itinerary for tonight. I just wanted to get your opinion on this. And myself being a parent of a talented musical child, Eric Jr. here, very talented. And when the day came that I saw music in him, I was super joyed, and at the exact same time, as a parent, super worried. Because, let's go back over our lives. I'm sure you and I and everyone watching that's a musician has had some beautiful times and some horrific times on the road and things like that. And it's not all the glory that we like to portray that it is. Mm-hmm. Do you ever see, okay, so you have a young child come in and, okay, a young girl or young boy, here we go, I'm going to give you some tools to get going and learn music. Are you ever afraid, or do you ever educate them a little bit, be careful out there in the business? If you ever, is that something that's ever discussed?
I think that type of thing doesn't have to be presented until we're talking about a career. In the beginning, let's talk about Back in Black. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about Led Zeppelin. It's so funny. And another thing is that basically that's what I do with my students is I use the music, their music or classic music to teach from. And I normally don't try to bring that kind of reality into it because I want we know guitar is a hard instrument to learn. It's hard.
Yep.
So I really want to stay focused on them not being discouraged, maintaining some sort of upward trajectory with their progress. I don't want to lay a bunch of that on. Now, right. I have had the experience, and as a matter of fact, my stepdaughter is now in the beginnings of a very successful career. So, and my wife also is a professional musician. So, we understand that it's basically you're self-employed. Mm-hmm, That's basically it. And I think that people can get wrapped up in maybe the fantasies of seeing, the music life in some regard on video or YouTube or whatever. But that's another point. YouTube now has brought the reality back down. Now you're seeing some of our heroes past the heyday. They're
Yes.
dealing with the rigors of the road still. They're dealing with these real basic things, and YouTube is bringing that front and center so that, you know, the kids can almost get an education without you even saying it, because they're seeing their favorite bands on the road. Their bandmates are complaining about not making money. You know, I mean, they're almost getting the information firsthand now. But I generally don't do that. I try to stay positive.
Yep.
Because I have had some bitter teachers.
Yeah, I bet.
Haven't you?
Yeah.
Has anybody else had those bitter guitar teachers that it's only negative, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
I used to have a teacher that would have me hold a G chord just so he could solo because he had to blow off steam. And I'm like, okay, but I want to do that too.
Wait a minute. I didn't. We've done a lesson? No.
Yeah, I know. No, that's a great share for sure. And I like the fact how you said that you got to look at it as being self-employed, because, you know, if you're a self-employed individual, you know, for the most part, that phone's not ringing 24/7. You're the one that's got to be calling. You got to be pounding the pavement. You got to hustle to make that buck. And if that's, you know, getting out there and playing some gigs for free if you have to, you know, I'd never encourage it. You got to hustle to make that dollar. And eventually you might have a bit of a, you know, a ball rolling, and you can make a few bucks. But yeah, it's very cool to compare it to self-employed.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's best. And sometimes, Deborah, my wife, gets upset because I don't celebrate wins.
Right.
You know, I'll say, hey, I'll tell her, oh, I got this gig. Oh, by the way, I'm doing this. And she'll be like, oh, are you happy? And then I'll have to flash on, am I happy? Because I'm busy thinking of the next thing I have to go get.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? You can't really sit back on your laurels because you're always in this mode of, you got to hustle.
That's
you
right.
got to go get them. So that's kind of interesting. But it's really finding that balance to maintain the passion that we have for the music that we make and that we want to make, and try to see if we can fit that into some sort of business model where the business doesn't start weighing on the music, because that's when things get ruined, I think. I mean, and I'm sure you've seen it too.
Oh, yeah. And something I've learned too, and I think this is a moderately decent piece of advice, and I learned from the mistake of this, is looking to each next gig as going to be like the end-all, be-all. The ones that I find that you think is going to be the best gig you've ever done in your life, sometimes can turn out to be a flop. And the ones that you think, oh man, I don't even want to be here. There's no one going to be here. This is in the middle of nowhere.
Absolutely.
It turns out to be the best gig you've ever done. So having that, just, you know, not like you say, don't necessarily overly celebrate. Okay, yeah, we got a gig, we're booked, we're going to promote it, but we're not going to say this is going to be we're going to do our best and that's all we can do.
Yeah, and I think, you know, what I've found in the last few years is to be careful and surround yourself, if you're out gigging and you're making music. Now, of course, if you're being offered gigs for money, then of course take the gigs, and you don't have to weigh this up. But if you're pursuing something with some passion, maybe your own solo stuff or a cover band, you know, a tribute kind of thing around a band you like, it's making sure that everybody in the band is tight. Like you actually like each other. I know that's always talked about, how, you know, bands have friction, but I've noticed the last few years that it would never matter what was happening off the bandstand, because we were having such a good time. You know, we were just, I mean, and all of a sudden we're high five and, oh, we did that, you know, all of a sudden we do something. We were sort of playing for ourselves while performing for everybody else.
Yeah.
And I really noticed, because I was in a band for a few years where it just got stressful because the dynamic in the band was not fun.
Yeah.
You know, so almost no money. And I've had those situations. It doesn't matter if you're not with, you know, a group of people you're enjoying, nothing matters at that point. So I think it is important to be careful about character. You know, I think the pitfalls for a lot of musicians is when we put our you know, we hang our star on other people's wagons and we're not quite sure, you know, we don't do an assessment. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's kind of always be careful about where you're putting your energy and does it feel good?
Yeah.
I think that's what that's all about.
Yeah, when you have a band situation where it feels like you're going to work like a job like you'd want to normally call in sick for, then it's time to possibly reevaluate what you're doing in that current sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of possibly hating band members at times, let's talk a little bit about some Van Halen. And the question I have for you, and obviously we're going to jump into some one of the highlights of this evening is going to be talking about some innovation with your products, and we're going to see them, get to know all about them. But I always like to ask people, as far as Eddie Van Halen being an innovator, and let's just take his talent completely off the table. We're not saying how great of a guitar player he is. He's the world's best in my opinion. But we're not going to talk about talent. We're going to talk about what he's done for the guitar, for effects, for amplifiers, for everything in between. I'd just like to get your opinion on his innovation contribution to the world.
Well, what I'm loving right now is that, I mean, especially since I discovered your show, and I'm watching now more and more. I think it's our generation. We're finally getting to the point where we're getting a bit of nostalgia about our childhood and teenage years, and Van Halen was a part of that. And I love the fact that conversation about Van Halen for years, like in the 90s and into the aughts, you had to be careful because they fell out of favor and they weren't considered, hip. But even though you have your diehard fans, so for me, Van Halen was a complete game changer. I mean, we had everything. I mean, everything. We had Hendrix, we had Jeff Beck, we had Jimmy Page, we had all the guitar players up to the point of Van Halen. And then Van Halen just blew the roof off. And as a kid in LA, there was so many urban legends going around about Van Halen. I was lucky enough to have an older sister that dragged me to two Van Halen shows. One was like a daytime event. They were playing some event, and I can't remember where it is. And the rumor was that the guys were all our age, meaning my age.
Okay.
And I'm 6 years, maybe 7 years younger. And I'm looking at them, I mean, I don't have facial hair.
Yeah.
I don't have hair on my chest. And it's just a crack up how. And I remember going back to my friends and saying, man, are you sure they're our age? And they're playing like, guys in their mid to late 20s.
Yeah.
And what Eddie did was he changed the archetype on every level. I mean, we don't, let's just talk about the super strat concept.
Right.
It's so, the super strat is as entrenched, is as much an icon in the guitar world as the Strat or the Les Paul. Mm-hmm. And that we owe to Eddie.
Agreed.
I mean, period. I mean, he started a whole new wave of guitar and we all followed suit. We all knew that the paradigm had shifted from that 60s, 70s paradigm. We knew that it had shifted if you were a guitar player. And around LA, I knew of, for a couple of reasons, Randy and Eddie were the sort of the iconic, top of the mountain. I did not know of George until a little later on. And I don't know why that is, but everybody I knew all through LA and the Inland Empire and down to Palm Springs, everybody knew the name Eddie Van Halen. And before the record came out, I mean, he had really changed the landscape, especially right before, before they got signed.
The fire and the energy, and you had the absolute honor, man. I would give anything to have a time machine to be able to see some of those backyard parties. And can you remember the year that this outdoor event was in the daytime? Do you remember the year roughly?
76 or 77.
Okay.
So
would it have been like a city hall type of a deal out in front of
that's what I remember. And my dad actually was on the he was involved in early development of video editing. He was an inventor and an electronic engineer. And the funny thing was his focus and our focus was on some other part of the event. Maybe politicians were speaking or whatever.
Yeah.
And the unfortunate thing was that my father did not videotape the show.
Oh, can you imagine?
And I'm like, come on.
Of all ones to miss. If that's the same show, I have goosebumps right now. I'm trying to contain them because there's a lot of folklore to that show if it's the same one too as well. Too at City Hall, it's a show that almost didn't happen because some beers and everything got backstage, and then it was getting out of hand. And it was almost shut down. And then, of course, when the authorities are saying we're going to shut down after everyone's on like their 10th beer and things like that, there's a lot of rowdy people. I think that's the same show. That was mentioned in Van Halen Rising from Greg Renoff. That's a great story.
I've seen his interviews. Now I've got to read the book. I haven't read the book, but
check it out.
Yeah, the energy was crazy. And I don't have the first I saw. I'm trying to think. Let's see, maybe not the first tour, but the second tour, Anaheim Stadium. I think second tour was that with Sammy Hagar. Who else was there? Was that Sabbath? Or no, that might have been Day on the Green. Or no, that might have been the big one down in Southern California. But I've seen them 4 times, and every time the energy was completely insane. I never saw the Hagar era, but I saw a lot of the early Van Halen, and it changed everything.
It did.
And when you saw them later, when you would hear people criticize the band or whatever criticisms that people would have as far as hipness or whatever, you would just sit there and shake your head because you remember this band that no one could touch. No one could touch that band live. Yeah. I mean, period. They out-rocked everybody every night. So
I would never want to be a band on that bill. I mean, as much as you think it's cool, if you're a musician, I'd love to open for Van Halen or whatever, I would never want to be anywhere near that stage. I'd rather just be in the audience with my fist in the air. There's no way you can touch that.
Well, or the bands that followed, right?
I know.
Journey, what was it? Well, Sabbath won for sure, but didn't they go out with Journey too?
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of Journey stories for sure. And I think as much as Eddie and Neil got along very well, I can see some animosity there eventually too, and almost getting kicked off the Journey tour and things like that as well too. So,
was that the word?
Yeah, there's some heat for sure. It's funny, but thank you so much for sharing. A lot of the Van Halen fans are going to love that. But we won't focus on Van Halen for the whole evening. I want to jump over just a little bit about the company. And before we talk about the innovation, as we were talking about with Eddie, because you have some really, really cool patents and things that we're going to get to know more about, I'd just like to learn more about the company. Tell us about what the company is and when you formed it and how, maybe even what the name 3G Guitar stands for.
Yeah. Well, 3G is for third generation. Okay. And so basically, how I see that is 57, you've got the iconic Stratocaster. 87, you suddenly had a significant change in the bolt-on neck joint in the gem.
Right, yeah.
And then 2017 is where our patent was filed for. And so that was the whole point, was to say that this is the third generation. It's the most significant change in design in 60 years, since the Strat design. As far as the bolt-on archetype, we feel that it actually is a significant paradigm shift in the design, in how the neck joint actually works in the guitar, and how it actually marries the neck and the body marry. So I've had the idea forever and ever. And as a matter of fact, can I share a little bit with you?
Please do. I'd love to see whatever you have.
Back in about 84, when I was still taking lessons with Joe, I'm going to come back a little bit.
Yep.
I was getting these Jacksons, and I was playing Jackson soloists, and I think they may have just come out. Maybe they were just a couple years old. And I always had a goal with the soloist, with all my guitars, was I wanted to be able to actually play the instrument from one end of the neck to the other without changing my technique at all. I didn't want to have to shift. And we know that once we get to the heel, everybody will be looking up, the sky, shredding away. And once you get to the heel, all eyes come down. You've got to change and shift your technique and make sure that you can access the notes in a different way than you did down here. So I pursued that with the neck through guitars, and I worked with a famous luthier, one of the best guitar builders in the business, Ken Lawrence. He builds those beautiful Explorers.
Oh, nice.
For Hetfield.
Yeah.
In Metallica.
Okay.
Well, that's Ken Lawrence, and he's one of the greatest builders, going all the way back to, I think, the late 70s, and iconic bass builder, iconic guitar builder. And he actually did this shape for me. Can you see that okay?
Yes, we can. Yeah, beauty.
Okay. And that basically eliminated the heel. And I knew I could only achieve that on neck through, because with a bolt-on or set neck, I'm out of integrity.
Right.
I have no more neck to
no more
bolt
real estate
to the body. So, but as many of us may, okay, we can go down this rabbit hole, and this is subjective, but what I discovered then was that I could not get my neck through instruments to sound good without making them active.
Okay.
And and that, I know I've had this argument, but for me, it did not work. They were two-dimensional. There was no note bloom. I had no harmonic resonance that I was used to in a bolt-on or set neck guitar. So I abandoned that.
Okay.
And so now, through the years, I tried to accomplish this with a number of different builders, but couldn't until I came up with the idea. I hope everybody's hanging in there.
They are. Oh, they're liking it.
I'm not doing the long version, but I'm going to try. I came up with the idea of actually extending the tenon, which isn't completely unique. But what I knew I needed to extend the tenon so that instead of the neck ending here, it would actually extend. And I'll show you on the guitar. This end of the neck actually is right at the treble pickup.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So this trough right there holds the neck pickup.
Interesting.
And now where we have our unique patent is in this round neck joint here. Mm-hmm. And then if you see, it has a keel like a boat.
I see that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this slots in to the body. Obviously, it mirrors it in the body. And then we have a 3-bolt system here and here. And then this comes up, and what is part of our patent is this actually comes up and touches the pick guard, because our pick guards are recessed. I'll show you in a second.
Okay.
And by doing so, we've actually trademarked tone guard, because now this activates the pick guard. So
resonance.
The neck itself, it adds a lot more resonance. The sustain you get at lower volumes is profound. It's really pretty wild. It was funny to discover that. And the lower mids we get with the extended tenon we thought would be a significant, and it was. But the thing I want to point out before I wrap this part is one thing the round neck pocket gives you is it gives you 180 degrees of tension. In square block pockets on the side, it's a slot.
Yeah.
The only place you have tension is on the two surfaces on the bottom. By having a round neck joint, we have 180 degrees of tension. So the sustain is pretty astounding. It cinches into the body. There's no flex side to side. And we found that's been it's added even more tone. It's been a broader effect than we even thought. And I've got a set neck design, sort of a Les Paul Jr. Set neck design, and a precision style bass design coming too, with the same thing. One being set neck, and then of course these being bolt-on.
So when you mentioned the fact about the active pickups, you weren't a fan because of that, and I'll be honest too, and I'm not afraid to say, because I know a lot of my friends here love active pickups, EMGs and all that kind of stuff. They swear by it. I've just never been, and I've had a PRS that had EMGs in it, but I've never been a fan. So now that you went with this new, you got the extended where the pickup actually mounts to the neck. Did you find right away with passive pickups, or like this is sounding good?
Yeah, well, the thing about active pickups to me, what I've found is that what people really enjoy about them is there's a consistency in in how they translate through amplifiers. They're tight. They're always very tight, and they deliver a tone in a very consistent way. And it makes sense because they're EQ'd from the instrument. But what I've found is that the passive pickups, there's more what I call note bloom. There's more activity between the guitar itself and the amplifier. There's an organic thing that happens that doesn't happen with active pickups. The active pickups will sustain and they'll feed back, but there's this other element because of the electronics that I think get nullified. And I'll tell you, anytime I've gone out, I've played with active pickups. I played EMGs for years. I worked with EMG and used their passive line too. They're beautiful. But every time I would get on stage with a Strat, someone play, like I supported Robin Trower, and actually in some of those early shows, I had a couple guitars on stage with active pickups, and to hear the tone that he would have in comparison to my tone, he'd be playing a Strat, a single coil pickup through a Marshall, and there was no comparison.
No.
So, and it's a matter of preference. I understand that. We get used to it. It depends on your rig and all that kind of stuff. But to me, right now, we've got some great partnerships, and we need to get to one of our favorite people for sure.
Let's do that.
Adam Reaver and Futone, because Adam actually has been there from the very beginning. I cannot express enough gratitude towards Adam. But early on, I was able to show the guitar, the NAMM before last. I was able to get Seymour Duncan's attention for a minute.
Okay.
And since then, Seymour Duncan has been really great in providing pickups and direction as far as the pickups that we think would work. Because let me grab this guy. Because I have such deep access, and imagine this, guys. I've got neck through access on a bolt-on, and I think only bolt-on players can really get that.
Yeah.
And so but what it did do was it pushed the neck pickup quite a ways towards the bridge. And so we've been working on voicing that pickup and choosing the right pickup for that position. So Seymour Duncan has been really, really, really great as far as direction and support.
Well, the range that he has in his product line, it's not just a matter of just, okay, let's throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sounds good. You've got the expertise of years from him. And he's probably saying, I think this might work for you. I would assume that's probably come up several times.
Well, and think of the MJ, think of all the people that have been in that company for so long, and they've been a part of, they're a legacy company. I mean, all of those guys are, same with EMG and DiMarzio, but Seymour Duncan, as we used to trade his pickups in Southern California like baseball cards.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, Seymour Duncan was the guy.
Yeah.
So, I'm really, really happy about that. Now, I'm probably rambling a little bit, but
it's okay.
one thing I did want to say was right away, my goal with the instrument was also to have a one-stop instrument, one that I could pick up, because I was always in this role as a support musician. I had, if you were swapping guitars out on stage, you lost a song.
That's right.
There's not, so it got to the point where we were, getting up there with, one instrument. Let's get as many tunes in. Sometimes you only had 20 minutes as a support act. That's ridiculous.
That's right.
You'd have 5 songs, and so the reason why I called it the Performer, named the first model the Performer, was I wanted a one-stop instrument. So not only do you have floating, thanks to the tremolo, we have hardtail as well on the bridge. And then, of course, we've got our thanks to Adam, we've got our EVH D tuner right here, so we can actually drop down to D and do our drop D playing.
Now, is that his tremolo too?
All on one guitar.
Is that his trem as well?
Absolutely. So the first person that I contacted, because I've always really loved his attitude, the big block bridge, and I had this sort of motorsports attitude towards the development of this instrument. I wanted it to be faster than a Strat. I wanted it to be faster than other super Strats. You know, I had this attitude like, okay, if I'm going to go to the racetrack and you know, I want this thing to perform. And so the thing that I loved about Adam was that he had that same aesthetic. He took that iconic bridge and then turned it into a pro stock. You know, he modified it. He improved on that. And that was what I wanted. A lot of the early people that I worked with, as far as designers, they didn't want to use that Strat shape. They wanted to have their own shape, you know, and of course that makes sense, right? You know, they want to put their signature on it.
Of course.
But to me, that super Strat shape that's what I wanted. It felt the best. And so, but what I did want to do was I wanted to actually improve on what was there. And I think we've done that in the patented designs. But then with Adam, here he's taken the Floyd Rose tremolo, and let's not forget his other heart. I mean, when you go to his website, you realize that this guy's serious about tone.
He sure is.
I mean, absolutely. And he came on board first. I approached him right away, and I asked him. I mean, he was willing to come right on. He's supported us from the very beginning, and I can't thank him enough.
Well, him and I talk probably a good 3 to 4 times a week, every week. It's religious around here because people are always asking me questions about, you know, bridge parts and I send them all to Adam. But we talk about a lot of different things. And whenever your name comes up, it's just nothing but praise. And I mean, you know, Adam does not sugarcoat things. If he doesn't like something, he never says anything bad about anything, but he just won't talk about it. But when it comes to your stuff, it's like, oh man, that neck joint. I mean, he said that 100 times. It's just amazing. And so he sold on that. But here's the thing too, with your innovation, okay, that's awesome. And the guitar is great, but here's where it could fail if you didn't work with the right people. You know, working with Seymour Duncan, that's awesome. So, if you just threw on like a Chinese trem, you know, just to, you know, keep costs down, you know, it's like, that's where a lot of people go wrong. They go so close to doing something, hitting a home run, and then they hit a foul ball and strike out, right? I think you nailed it. You're working with the best people. Great pickups. Adam, you can't do any better than Adam when it comes to bridge upgrades and things like that. So phenomenal. It's nice to have that blessing for sure. Oh, and he has basically what we want to do with the company is we did want to avoid all that. It is we have our custom shop. We have the best. We have a legacy as well in Santa Cruz, California, for guitar builders. You've got Rick Turner, you've got Scott Walker, you've got, you also have Santa Cruz Guitars, Richard over at Santa Cruz Guitars, and it goes on. And so I'm working with the best of the best in Santa Cruz. And that's where we're actually doing the manufacturing of our custom work. And my whole goal was, one, to actually keep it California, keep everything just American made. Yes. And then also focus on the fact that the Strat was born in California, and Seymour Duncan is in Santa Barbara. And so my initial focus was definitely sort of to keep that kind of that I don't know, that kind of an attitude. You know? It's like that's, you know, keep it one American made. Don't go offshore with it and lose all the ability to just keep an eye on the quality. I mean, I pick the wood. I'll go to I will finish the guitars. I pick the wood. I'll spend hours and hours we have one of the best stores for exotic woods in San Francisco. And I'll spend, 3 to 6 hours picking, all the wood, and to me, that's the joy of it, because I know that everybody's getting one, the best instrument they can get. Yeah. And the hardware, everything about the instrument is quality. And it's really just maintaining that, once again, that motorsports aesthetic. You're not going to go out there in an old jalopy. You're not going to go out there and win the race if it's got, feeble parts and all that. So Yeah, so how much can I save here? I mean, obviously, I know you want to keep costs where you can have a profit as well, too, but it's not all about the profit margin. It's about the happy player. And I want to go back just one step before I jump over to the chat, because there's a couple good questions here, the technical questions for you. But when you mentioned, okay, so the name come out, performer, obviously being a performer, especially for people, you get 20 minutes as an opening support act, whatever. And here's something where I don't think a lot of people look at. Sometimes musicians, and we're all guilty for this, we like to have a nice collection of guitars, and, we might change guitars every single song because we can. Now, that changing that guitar every single time, too, number one, it's time-consuming, especially on a support act. But number two, your mojo, sometimes it takes a little bit to get that mojo going. And on a support act, like you mentioned, you got 5 songs to win the crowd over if you can. It sometimes takes a song and a half, maybe 2 songs. So now you've got 3 songs left. When your mojo's just going, now I'm going to switch a guitar. And you just shot yourself in the foot because your mojo was going. Now you grab another guitar.
Yep.
You can do it with yours.
And unless it's a part of the show, but when you're a support act, there's no show.
No.
There's just get in and get out and try to, present your music as in the best way that you can. And it's funny to learn that lesson that it's not your show.
I know.
It's so funny to learn. It's a hard lesson to learn. You have to. Most of the audiences are upset that you're even there. They're there to see their act.
You're an obstacle.
Not there to see you.
Yeah, you're an obstacle to them. That's a very good point. And I've learned my lesson from that as well too. Looking back, thinking, oh, it was mine. They're not there to see me. They could care less.
Yeah, but the fun thing is that you see when you go out there and if you work for them and you put some blood on the tracks and people can see that you're up there really doing your best. What you see it one audience member at a time. They come over and you probably had this experience. You have about 15 seconds to get them to say, okay, I'll give them a minute, and you see that look. You see that look of like, okay, I'll give them a minute.
Yeah.
And then, and then you just work. And then they're like, all right.
Yeah. You picked up 1 or 2 new fans.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's funny.
Carlo Santin has a really good question. He says, John, what is your opinion on body wood and tone? So you talked about picking out the woods and everything. There are some who believe that wood contributing to tone is a myth. I'd really love to hear your thought on that.
It's so not a myth. Okay. I mean, it's one. I think that Ghost in the Machine, that the marriage of one of the reasons why I also like. I don't like neck through instruments is because I like that mystery of the marriage of that neck wood and the body wood. And it really, and you'll get that perfect neck, and you'll find that perfect neck does you well no matter what body you put it on. That neck always seems to do you well. And I've had great necks that I've interchanged, and I have to say that in my experience, the lighter woods. And you'll see this in old guitars that eventually evaporate. There's no more water molecule. The water, all those pockets are gone. There's no more moisture in that guitar. And you'll see that old guitar is lighter and resonates, has more tone. And what we're doing is we're doing basswood bodies, and that's basically an archetype that Ibanez, of course, made popular. And I think that there's a consistency there. It's a softer wood, but what I find is that the lower mids are broader in the lighter woods, where when you have an alder or when you have any harder woods, there's a more centered, tone. The frequencies are more direct and centered. Like I've got a number of guitars that are alder bodies that I really like. And there's a dark and lower mid sort of punch to them, and then all of a sudden this very detailed 3K sharpness to that I find they don't have this warmer, broader sound. And I don't know, this is all subjective, because remember, we all plug into different amps. We all EQ our stuff differently to compensate for our instruments. But, I do have a number of different instruments of different woods, and all my favorite instruments, I always come back to these lighter tone woods. Now, give me all mahogany, a mahogany neck, mahogany body, and you suddenly get that detailed mid-range that we expect from that kind of wood combination, I love that too. But in general, the harder woods to me are sharper and more detailed, and the softer woods seem to just have more of a warmer tone to it. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It makes a ton of sense, and I'm so happy to hear you say this. And I know some people in the chat are as well too. But the reason I'm going to, for my selfish reasons, here on through the YouTube channel, I get a lot of comments when I'm demoing some of the EVH guitars and things like that. A lot of people will say, "Oh, Eddie's only using basswood," because like almost all the Wolfgangs are a basswood body. They're only doing that to keep the cost down so they can mark up the profit and make a huge profit. I'm like, well, if it's good enough for Eddie Van Halen, and that's what he uses. You know, sure, the things were different back in the day for the most part, but nowadays the Wolfgang's basswood body. So I'm really, really happy, and it kind of makes me feel a little bit kind of like I can take a breath here and say, okay, it's good. You know what I mean?
Well, there's a reason why there's a reason why millions of guitars are made in basswood every day and sold every day. Because there's a certain amount of success. Now, the beauty of this conversation is it's so subjective.
Of course.
And I have these. I mean, and there's diehard alder, diehard mahogany guys, you know, diehard set neck. You know, there's all that kind of preference, which makes this conversation so much fun.
That's right.
Because, I think that I think also I spent a lot of the last few years and I still do it. I'll go out, and many of us are going to go out and play, 3 to 4 hours a night, and we're going to do many sets, And the one thing is when I put on those hardwood bodies, oh man, by the third set, that thing's heavy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I do kind of. I don't know. I preference, my preference is definitely just the lighter body, not just for that. It does seem to also, I think there's a certain amount of resonance that happens faster in a lighter body, because when you have a dense wood, the effect of a sound wave hitting it and you getting it to, get note bloom or getting it to feed back, I think it takes more because there's more mass.
Agreed.
Where the lighter wood, this is all theoretical, right? This is just my talk, but I've noticed, especially in the Performer, and I think that I was mentioning earlier that the one thing the Performer will do it'll start sustaining at a much lower volume.
Yeah.
Your normal gain, all of a sudden it'll just start hanging a note, and you'll be like, "What's that? What is that?" And you'll turn around, your guitar volume's up a little, and it's because I do feel that a maple neck and a basswood body has that kind of marriage that's perfect.
Mojo, really good mojo.
Almost every guitar that I've had with that maple neck basswood body, whether it has a rosewood fingerboard or not, you get that immediate reaction from the speaker. If you're in front, I mean, the guitar will start talking to you immediately, where when I'm on a denser bodied guitar, sometimes it takes a second to get that thing to speak. So
I think with the basswood as well too, when we're talking about Adam's products with the brass blocks, I mean, we've all had this, like a lot of us come to the channel here and then buy Adam's stuff for the Wolfgangs and all their EVH guitars. You'd think it never gets old, or you think it would get old, like the wow factor of putting in a brass block in your guitar, and it doesn't really get old, but you get used to it. And I told Adam this one day, like I've done probably 10, 12 guitars here, all futoned. And one of them was the Stripe series, EVH Stripe series, the black and white one, like his classic, iconic first album guitar. And I had a buddy over, and he didn't know anything about futon stuff, and he didn't have any Floyd Rose guitars. So I was just showing him, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to upgrade a guitar. You can watch me do it. So I did the whole thing, and I said, let's go in my office now, and we'll give it a try. And and thinking, okay, here we go. He's going to hear it, and I played a note, and actually I didn't strum the guitar till I got in the office. So even acoustically, I was like, oh my God. And he's like, you got something wrong? And I'm like, no, like there's definitely nothing wrong. It was just a right piece of basswood. And I told Adam about it. I said it was almost an out-of-body experience how good it worked on this one particular guitar. So I think it really helps on the basswood guitars, especially.
Oh, the metal. Well, one, he's using the best alloy possible. I mean, that's the difference. I mean, we all remember getting that crappy Floyd with the horrible alloy. And they sounded like tin, and you'd be so disappointed. And what you'd get a brass block, and that would kind of make the difference. But no, if that plate if everything about that bridge isn't well made, and all my futones, I've got let's see, five or six bridges. They've been worked. The last year, I have just beat them senseless, and they're like brand new.
Wow.
I mean, they're brand new, and that was exactly what attracted me to what Adam was doing. It was a no nonsense approach.
Yeah. And in the trem lock or the string lock blocks, are you using titanium or naval brass, or are we using graphite?
I've got both. Yeah, I'm doing both, and I like the ping of the titanium.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Okay,
and
that's good to know.
Yeah, I'm also, I didn't catch up with you on the pickup, your pickup evaluation, but I'm really excited for him. I had no idea he was doing pickups.
Me too. I'm thrilled. And I told him that my biggest dilemma right now is what guitar I'm going to put it in. It won't just retrofit pop into a Wolfgang, because of the way Eddie's got that. He's pretty smart. He doesn't really necessarily want you popping other pickups. And there's no real need to put other pickups in. Actually, in my opinion, there is zero need to put any, and Adam would probably tell you the same thing. I'm sure he would, that there's no need to put another pickup in that guitar. No, it could be done. But I'm thinking about popping in, and I've got a real nice PRS. The only trouble is it's a 5-way rotary, and I asked him, I said, can you help me out on that one? I don't know how to do it with a 5-way rotary. I'll probably take it in because there's tapping and all kinds of crazy stuff on that, but I think it would sound very nice. I've got Tremonti pickups in it right now, which are great, PRS Tremonti pickups. But I want to try Adams, and I think that's the guitar for it. So
I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, I'll let you know right away.
Actually, I'm going to have them send some out because I definitely want to check them out.
Yeah, it might be a neat option for one of the guitars. It'd be very cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
Definitely offering Adams pickups for sure.
Your friend Sean there had a good question. He said, how did the overall reinvention of the 3G Performer change or improve the tone? And I think he might have had a second one. Oh yeah, he says, I'll rephrase. Do you feel the redesign of the Strat archetype has changed or improved the tone?
Yes, I definitely. I know it has. I've used the guitar live. I've used it in the studio, and I had a feeling it would. And I think, to be honest, going back to that whole the whole fact that the Strat bridge only has pressure on the two the top and the bottom sides where the sides of the necks are slots, and the fact that we have tension on 180 degrees, I feel that I knew that was going to make a difference. But I think that what we're finding in the guitar as far as the lower mid quality and just basically how it delivers those mids, and those are the mids we're looking for in the guitar.
Right.
Those are the ones we're always trying to find, and we hate it when they're not there because then we have this thin tone. And to me, that's the fundamental shift. And every time I've given this guitar to anyone to play or try, one of the things that has been, to me, the most exciting thing, how it is with guitars, either they're friendly or they're not, right?
Yeah.
You either want to play it or it wants to play you.
Yeah.
That's how it is. And all of a sudden you stop talking, you stop caring what, conversation around you. You could care less. You're playing this guitar now. And people, your wife, whoever, they may be wanting to get your attention. Come on, let's go. You don't want to put this down.
No.
This guitar and you have a thing going on right now. And you either get that or you don't from a guitar. And I found that every time someone's picked up the Performer, and actually Adam will tell you this too, because he had Liquid Charlie come to our suite at NAMM, and I posted a video, and we gave Liquid Charlie the guitar, and he just started shredding away, and he just forgot about us. And for about 30 minutes, he just played, and I found that that's what happens. And another thing that's interesting for me is that I didn't know what to expect. I knew I would finally be able to build the guitar I've been trying to build for 35, 40 years. I've had this concept forever, but I didn't know if it was going to work, and I didn't know if it was going to replace my favorite Strats.
Yeah.
That's what I play. I play Super Strats, and I have to say they're gone. They're all in their cases.
Wow.
My favorite guitars, the ones I've been playing for 30 years, my go-to number ones, they're all in the closet.
That's a tremendous feeling.
It's funny, and that happened organically. I just eventually, the only guitars I'm playing. Another thing I should mention is that we put 5-way super switches in.
Okay.
Oh, before I forget, one of the reasons is that I was really careful about getting the pickups working, and we want to keep on working on the detail. But I'm very happy with the 5-way super switches. We've got hum.
Just lift up a little bit if you can.
Oh, sure. There we go.
Yeah.
How are we good now?
Perfect. Yep.
Good. Okay. So all the way we've got hum. Now we've got single, right?
Yep.
Pretty standard.
Yep.
And then here we've got these 2 slugs for middle.
Insides. Yep.
Okay. And then we've got single.
Bridge.
And a lot of people, you have to be careful when you wire. If you don't wire it yourself and you take your guitar to have your pickups wired, be very careful, because a lot of times, and I've had this happen a lot, is that guys will wire your humbuckers for single and they'll make this slug active.
The inside, not the outside.
Yeah,
that's right. I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen that a lot.
And you'll be like, it doesn't really sound like a Strat, and so
that's why
you have to be really careful about that. But we definitely have. We've made sure it's there. And of course, hum all the way down there. But now the difference is that if we're down, the difference is I've got push pulls as well, and we can wire these in so many different ways depending on your preferences. We actually talk to the player, and we actually wire the guitars specifically for the player.
Okay.
And so what this does, this one push pull enables that slug.
Gotcha.
So now what we have is obviously in the middle, we can have the 2 insides or the inside and an outside.
That's fantastic.
And then if we're down here, we can have the 2 outside singles. And tonally, this is great. And we've got more demos coming out with tone. Now, when we're in full hum, I can pull this up and engage this slug. So you get a super smooth fusion tone, with the humbucker and this slug on the neck, which darkens it up, but you still get all the sustain and the push. So, that's one of the things we've done. And that's also just to make sure that this guitar will deliver for you on stage or at a session. So you don't have to bring a lot of guitars to both.
Hence back to the name again, performer. And that's great. It's like literally having your cake and eating it too. I mean, because like you said, a lot of guys will wire that up wrong. So if you want that way, coil tap, boom, and you can actually still get it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is it put in that position and then coil tap? That's fantastic. Yeah,
and we're doing so many different things. And plus, I'm working also with Thomas Nordig,
Steve.
Thomas?
Oh yeah.
He'd probably get upset if I call him the Yoda of guitar techs. He would want to be Obi-Wan Kenobi. Maybe let's do that.
Okay.
Let's do Obi-Wan Kenobi,
sure.
Okay? But to me, he's doing some amazing things, and he's convinced me to put a kill switch on. And on our set neck model, we're going to also have a MIDI controller on it as well, and that's something he's developing, which I'm really excited for Thomas, which is called the Domino. He's going to be featured in Guitar Player Magazine.
Oh, sweet.
Coming up real soon. Check that out. Look for Thomas in Guitar Player Magazine, and he's doing some real exciting stuff, and I'm really proud to be working with him too. To be honest, he was the very first person I saw when I got off the elevator at NAMM the first year, when I was sort of showing it around, not sure what to think. He was the very first person to see it. He took a good look, and then he told me, "You must pursue this." That's what he told me. And then off he went into his NAMM, experience. And I didn't see him again at the show. But the way he told me was basically what jump-started the whole thing for me. I went, well, okay, if guys like Thomas are telling me I should really dig into this, then I'm going to do it.
Well, that's fantastic. Yeah, he is a guru when it comes to it for sure, and I can see him being okay. Don't put me on that pedestal, but obviously he's worked with some of the best in the business, so that's nice to have that blessing.
Yeah. He's quite a mind, that guy, for sure.
For sure. Well, I was just getting a report that people are having some trouble over in the chat. My Nocturnal Butterfly sent me a message, so maybe people, what you might want to try is change it from live chat to top chat, maybe back and forth a couple times. Just toggle it and give YouTube a little push, It just needs, it's maybe stuck in the mud a little bit. So try that. See if you can get it get it working. But we'll be wrapping up here in about 20 minutes anyways. But Jeff Humphreys had a question from Jay's Tacos and Guitars. And there's a question I was going to ask you this evening as well too. But one of the most important things as he's asking is how can a person go buy one of these guitars? Obviously, we've got your website and we've got the link in the description. Are they sold in stores, or they're directly from you, from the company? Or maybe share with us that.
Yeah, they're direct. You deal with us. We basically we have a custom shop attitude. We have our models and we have colors. You know, our basic colors. If you go to our store, you'll see the guitars, and then you'll see our custom instruments at the bottom as well. We have a bunch of iconic colors that are based around classic car colors, but we have one of the best finish guys in the business. So it's whatever everybody wants. And basically, I want to keep it right now one-on-one and keep it a custom shop. I like picking out the wood. I like being involved. I like taking care of the process in the sense of guaranteeing the quality to the customer. There's a couple of stores that have been around a long time, and I'm talking to them about getting models in those stores. Okay. And I'm also talking to some partners. We are looking to partner and to maybe introduce the instrument out of America, licensed with our brand from bigger companies. And we're actually in the middle of talking to a number of different folks, and we're not in a big hurry to make that decision.
Of course.
We like keeping it as a custom shop, and we're going to maintain the custom shop no matter what happens with the technology or the licensing. We want to maintain our custom shop.
I like that. That's one of the things. That's the perfect problem to have, is that, having them available in all these different stores worldwide. But for now, like you say, you get to give that TLC. You get to go pick that piece of wood. Be careful what you wish for. Sometimes growth can be astronomical. You may not be ready for it, so you're putting all the ducks in a row in the proper way. Even like you just mentioned, the fact that even if these do come on board, you're still going to have the custom shop. You're still going to give the customer what he or she wants and the exact flavor, electronics, all that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and we want to build. We want to make sure that we're scaling properly too. So that's why we'll talk to companies about licensing who may have the infrastructure for a larger scale. Mm-hmm. We don't really. We've been actually careful about getting the word out, because we want to just make things move in an organic way that we can keep a hold of. I've got a great team. I've got, of course, you see Sean Cook. Sean's been on board from the very beginning.
Okay.
I've got Dave Chin, who you'll see out there. He's been with me forever. And I've got also Steve Crisp is our main, he's not our finisher, but he can absolutely do that. But he's our assembler, and he worked with Stevie Ray Vaughan and Al Di Meola. I mean, it's just top drawer quality, and I'm proud to actually be producing instruments with them. I never thought I would really be doing this, so it's funny how life is, that all of a sudden you have an idea and here you are,
That's wicked. Lyle Ketchum has a question for you. He says, John, do you actually work on people's guitars? Do you do any Luthering or any kind of tricks and tweaks to people's guitars, tech work?
Well, my students do. I mean, and this is what I do basically, is I teach all my students to be able to rip their instrument apart. After about a year of being with me, they have to do that. One of our lessons is it's pretty shocking to them, but, because they see their guitar in pieces, right? But to me, if you can't do everything on the gig, my soldering iron goes with me. I'm on the job with all the tools I need. I'm not going to let something happen where I'm going to lose control of my ability to get that job done. And I think all players should know some basics in that regard. I don't really, I don't do any repair work, but I definitely am. I'm working on my students' guitars every day.
Of course. I think it's a little different generation now, but I'm sure like you and I are very, very close in age here, probably very close. And, our dads, probably back, at least with my dad back in the day, he would, as soon as I was able to drive, even before I was able to drive, he would be showing me, okay, here's where people don't even know where carburetors are anymore. There's no such thing. But okay, if you break down on the highway, here's how you put a little bit of gas in a carburetor and an air breather. Take off the air breather, we'll get you going. Here's how you change a tire. It's very important to know those things. And in a case like you say, bands, you're out there, young bands or even some established bands don't necessarily travel with their own guitar techs and stage hands and things like that. And it could make or break the gig if you don't have know how to at least electrical tape a wire, let alone solder it. You need to know the basics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Be able to throw some electric tape between your shorting cable. You know what I mean? All that stuff all these little tools. We were so proud because my stepdaughter, Melissa, she texted us from the road and said, "I just changed the tire." And they're on the road and got a flat tire on the road with her band, and she's out changing the tire. Well, so there is something to that. That whole just be self-reliant.
Yeah.
Be able to not have to lean on anybody else, and things are move along a lot easier for sure.
That's great to hear, and fortunately everything worked out good. They're were able to be safe in there and got back on the road, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
And in fact, a proud moment for sure too. Before we wrap up here in a couple of minutes, there's something I want to ask you. And you were kind of showing me, and I make sure I got this right. You were showing me a neck there, and it had something interesting on the neck. Are you able to show that again and see if people catch that?
Oh,
I'll let you set it up.
I wonder. I wonder. I'll toss it up. We definitely. We're making a guitar for an artist, and he's requested the T-Bird White Performer. And so we're going to be delivering that to him when he comes off the road. He's in Europe right now on the road. Fantastic. So I'm not sure if you could see that.
There's probably about a 10 or 15 second delay in YouTube as far as the voice, but you guys or girls, if anyone can name who that is, it's pretty iconic, and there might have been some conversation earlier in the program. See if you recognize those initials. So that's going to be hand-delivered to this particular fellow.
It is, yeah. I'm really excited, and it's way overdue. I mean, this was for his birthday, and we've been trying to connect. And you can imagine he's having such a great year. I mean, talk about unstoppable momentum. So
there you go. And there you go. Ron Bain's got it. He's got it for sure. It says Satch.
Yep.
That's fantastic. Is Joe using that? Like that's what he's using back on the when we were talking off the air. I had the JSX amp. I love that amplifier. Is that pretty much his iconic logo he uses for everything now? The JS like that?
Yeah. I thought it would be nice to put that at the 12th fret. And he's been very supportive. Obviously he's an Ibanez player. Please don't misunderstand me.
No.
He's not. We're not. There's no endorsement or anything like that. But he has been very supportive, and I just really appreciate it. And the fact that he wants one of the guitars, and we're just really excited. And I just can't wait. My main thing is to be able to get this guitar into the hands of great players and get their feedback. I just want to know what they think, honestly.
Certainly.
So,
and I know Joe has such a great relationship with Ibanez. I mean, he's really done a lot for him and a lot of other artists as well. But I mean, he has such a great relationship with Ibanez. I know they would not even look the other way for 2 seconds. The fact that he's playing other guitars, people would be dumb if they figured you're only going to play one guitar for the rest of your life. Sure, that's his signature guitar. He endorses it. He plays it and he loves it. But there's no reason why he can't play and have fun on another instrument. And like you say, it's not an endorsement. It's just playing out a guitar, checking it out, and the feedback alone that you'd receive from Joe as one of the world's best players is like some R&D that you just could not come up with.
Yeah, that's the and I'm so grateful for anyone who takes the time. And at NAMM I had a number of great players that checked it out, and I'm just really happy about that. And to be honest, that's really what I want. I really want to keep on developing the instrument, keep on developing the technology. And to me, tomorrow I'm going to be meeting with Bill Lanero. Do you know Bill?
Oh yeah, for sure do. Yeah, I'm friends with him on Facebook. Sure. Yeah,
I'm going to Bill's studio, and I can't wait. He's going to plug the guitar into his rig, and that's what I want. And he's going to fire it up. I've got a drop C guitar for him to check out, and the standard. And so, yeah, I'm really excited. I've been going down to, I'm up here in the Santa Cruz, Monterey area, but but I'm, a few hours from LA. So really part of my life is now going down to LA and showing the guitar off and just, getting the word out there.
Yeah.
I haven't really been doing it as quickly and loudly as I probably could. And we're going to step that up now, because there's growing pains. We have to, I have to be really careful. We're making sure that every step that we take with our manufacturers, with our partnerships, those all have to be solid before we can actually step forward. So, it's an interesting journey for sure.
You're doing it right for sure, because I've seen some companies, not aside from music, nothing to do with music, that have a great business plan, a great product, or maybe a great service, and they failed because they went way too big before they're even ready for it. It's like, okay, we'll take it. Oh, I can't give it to you. I can't give it to you fast enough, or, or my supplier can't give me the stuff fast enough. It's like, oh man. So you're doing it right. You're really doing it right.
Well, we have that in Silicon Valley all the time. I'm close to Silicon Valley, and we watch the startup, concept go straight in the dumper, all the time, because they'll have great ideas, and then it turns out there's nothing behind it. It's smoke and mirrors, or they have a great idea that they just killed because they developed it too quickly. So yeah, we're definitely taking our time, and I can't wait. In the next few weeks, definitely keep an eye out for our Performer HZ. That's our bass. It's going to be the Performer. I took that precision strat concept, and I'm doing the same thing. I'm going to take the Performer, and we're going to make a 4-string and, of course, a 5 and 6-string bass. But we're starting with an Iconic 4 with the 3G technology, and it's called the Performer HZ.
Okay.
So, and of course, Dave Chin wants to say Performer HZ. It hurts so good. So,
I like it. I like it. HZ. That's perfect. I know we were not prepared for this, but it sounds like we're getting a couple of requests from the chat for you to play. Do you have anything plugged in? Can you plug one in, or you even want to noodle acoustically?
Oh, let's see if we can.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but you're welcome to go ahead. And I'm sure people would love it. I know I would.
Let's see if. Let's see if we get any tone, okay?
Oh yeah, that sounds good.
Can you hear that okay?
Yeah, we can, yeah.
All right. So basically that's the bridge pickup.
Okay.
Here's the neck pickup. Right? Here's your single. Can you hear that all right?
Yes, well, that sounds great.
And now we'll just go to bridge. Let's see. That too overdriven? I don't know if we're getting the right kind of tone.
No, actually, are you running through your board?
Let's see. I am running through a little Mackie board, but we didn't actually test this, did we?
No, it didn't. No, it's good, man. It's good. It's really good. Yeah.
Good. Awesome. But yeah. So so basically that's some of the tones. But if you go to our YouTube channel, or if you go to the website, we have a number of videos up, and over the next couple of weeks, I'm just going to be putting out tone videos for everybody to check out. A little more detail.
Yeah. Oh, that you're getting some great feedback in the chat. Sean Cook says, do the D inversions.
Oh, you're so funny. That's funny. We did a Skype lesson. If anybody's interested in Skype lessons too, I'm definitely that's one of the things I do.
Oh, great.
I do lessons online for sure. But yeah. I'd love to just have you guys check out. If you have any questions, please feel free to send them to me at john@3gguitars.rocks, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions.
Is that how they would get in touch with you if they want Skype lessons too?
Yeah, sure. You can do that. You can do it through my Facebook.
Okay.
Either way.
Okay, fantastic. I've got links as well to the Facebook as well down below too, so people can contact you that way, plus through the website. That's absolutely fantastic. I have to play one of those in the distant near future. Like, I like the style of it. I'm more of the Strat guy as well too. I just love it to death.
Yeah, one of my goals with you, Eric, is to send you up one so that you can do a demo.
That'd be cool.
So let's go ahead and talk about that so that, over the next couple of weeks we can figure out how to make that happen.
All right, sounds cool. That'd be a lot of fun.
I'd appreciate it.
Well, you make it look pretty darn easy, so I might be able to. I won't be able to do the justice that you did, but I'll have some fun with it for sure.
You totally shred.
Thank you, sir.
I've seen you play.
Thank you. I have lots of smoke and I have lots of mirrors. I'm always replacing them
Don't
too.
we all? Don't we all?
Look over here while I do this. It's all fun.
You bang on it and hope for the best.
That's right. But that's awesome, man. You really, really. I mean, one of my goals here, actually, my only goal on the show. I should say I have two. One is to have fun, but number two is to warm up everybody's weekend. And you talked about the support act. So that's what we're going to take away from this episode is support acts. And I like the show to be a support act for people's weekend. And I don't think I could have asked for a better guest than you. So thank you so very much from myself.
This was such my pleasure. And we all enjoy the show, Eric. I mean, you're doing such a great job. The content is always great. Like the one thing I told Eric when we came on was we had not spoken before, but because of your personality, you make it so personable, and you're just like, you make it easy. So all of a sudden we were speaking and I went, oh, I feel like I've been talking to this guy for years. So
that's awesome.
Hats off to you for everything you're doing on the show.
Thank you. That means a lot to me because it's a lot of fun. It's just conversation, and I've learned so much from guests like yourself, from people in the chat. People say things in the chat. I'm like, hey, I didn't know that. That's awesome. Yeah. Sometimes I'll write it down so I don't forget. Now, one of the nice things is these chats are saved. So if someone says something in the chat that's really cool, that's fantastic. So awesome. We learned a lot tonight, and I'm so happy for you and the company.
Thank you, Eric. You've been you've been really supportive. And I really appreciate the fact that we came on. Hope we can do it again as things update and we have, things to talk about.
The door is always open. If anything comes up, it's a new, I want you back on a regular basis, maybe a couple times a year. But if there's any news flashes, press releases, anything that comes up, something may happen, like, okay, we're now distributed by so-and-so. Anything you think is newsworthy, please share with me, and I'll be more than happy to do a video voicer or a quick share or anything I can do to help promote. It's the very least I can do.
Oh, thank you. And likewise, I think, to be honest, we are at that point now where our community is global.
Yes.
And you and I know the difference. You and I remember when I was a kid, I wrote Steve Vai a letter and, I saw an address where I could write Steve Vai a letter, and he sent me back an orchestra score size score of the Attitude song.
Oh,
and it was like, wow, and you and I remember the snail mail days.
Oh yeah.
Where you would wonder if anyone got your letter, then you'd wait for weeks to see if you got any, return.
Yeah.
So, I do really, I feel good, and I think you do too, about where we are.
Yeah.
As far as, we're able to communicate. It's so much fun to be able to be here and see people on the chat that could be from anywhere around the world. And that's just exciting.
Yeah, you tune in globally. Like in a lot of cases, we have Argentina, we have Germany, we have United States, North America, obviously us in North America. It's really cool. We can communicate with anyone, especially with the certain time zones. We can all align. It's pretty awesome. Everyone in the chat is really enjoying it, and I want to thank all of you guys.
Thanks,
and girls.
everybody.
Yeah,
great to meet everybody, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions.
Please do so. And here's a question maybe you probably don't want to answer on the air. Maybe you can. Michael B's asking how much for lessons. Is that something you would like to say on the air, or would you prefer to answer it in an email?
I think I'd rather, that's very individual. And
Yeah.
to be honest with you, I adjust that depending on the situation.
Sure.
So we can talk about that. Feel free to reach out. I love, I love all styles of music. I have a classical guitar flute duet that I also have with my wife, Deborah. So I love all styles of music. I love all guitars, acoustic and electric. So
fantastic. So there's
that plug. There's a plug.
Yeah, exactly. So Michael, reach out to him as well by email there, and we can tailor that for you as well too. Everyone, I hope you have a fantastic weekend and have a great Father's Day if you're celebrating this Sunday.
Happy Father's Day, everybody.
Yeah. If you people would be interested in checking out my Patreon as well too, patreon.com/EVH Gear TV. There are some little commercials coming out at the end of the show here as well. I just hope everyone has a great weekend, and thank you so very, very much. And Sean Close says, I want Eric to give me guitar lessons. Okay, let me get a couple from John first, and then we'll talk, okay? And they'll be free from me because I won't be able to do much.
He must have just checked out your clips. That's what that is.
I don't know. But I appreciate that. Oh, there you go. You got an email coming in from Michael, so that's awesome.
Nice.
Lots of people happy. John, don't go away. I'm going to say goodbye to you off the air. So everyone, you have a fantastic weekend. I've taken off this Sunday for the Helix Hour, but I'm back actually next Sunday. Jeff Shorter from Smashing Pumpkins is on the show. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, nice.
Talking about how Helix is a big center part of his rig. So that'll be a lot of fun. Everyone,
you're doing a great job with the Helix Hour. That is really a ton. You're doing a great job with that.
Thank you. That was something that was thrown at the wall to see if it sticks, and episode 11. So yeah, it's going good, and it's kind of nice. I was almost thinking about tailoring this show back to 60 minutes as well. The EVH show does not fit in a 60-minute window, no matter how hard you try. And the Helix Hour fits nicely in 60 minutes. You can get, but look where we are. We're 61 minutes into it, we're 91 minutes into it, and it felt proper, didn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you can't really, you have to ease into this. When you're having a conversation, you have to have time.
Yep.
Yeah,
and it's like that opening act again. Once again, we're going back to support acts. I don't care who you are as a support act. You're not your A game from the first song, unless you're maybe Van Halen back in the day opening up for Sabbath or something like that.
Right.
So as a show, we're warming up. I'm nervous a little bit at the beginning of the show. I'm feeling you out, feeling how the show's going, how the chat's going. So yeah, it's a gradual baby step. So we did it. We had a good show.
Well, your poker face is solid, my friend.
When I get off here, I'm gonna be like, oh my God, how'd I do? It's all good though.
Oh, you did? Yeah. Well, it sure was fun. I sure had a great time.
Awesome, man. This was awesome. So let's talk for a second off the air. Everyone, you rock. We will see you very, very soon.
You guys.
Until next time, cheers.
Bye.
I am now on Patreon. If you enjoy my content and wish to support my channel and what I do, then please check out my Patreon page at patreon.com/EVH Gear TV. Your support assures the continued growth of this channel and a fun community in which to share our love for Van Halen, music gear, and much more.
My name is Eric and I've been looking guitar.
Video production services provided by Design 39 Media. Visit design39media.com for all your website, photography, and video production needs. Microphones for EVH and Gear TV are provided by Rode Microphones, and official Van Halen merchandise is provided by VanHalenStore.com.